Chapter 21. Uneasy Calm. The weeks following the battle trial passed quickly. Class 1A settled into a routine of classes, training, and endless homework. For most students, life at UA felt exciting. For Izuku, it felt like the beginning of something much larger. His elemental control continued improving. Fire burned hotter. Ice became stronger. Lightning responded faster. Wind carried him farther. Earth obeyed with greater precision. Water flowed almost as naturally as breathing. Yet the mysterious seventh power never returned. No matter how hard he trained, no matter how much he searched, the strange energy remained hidden. That worried him, because if he couldn't understand it, how could he control it? Chapter 22. The Unforeseen Simulation Joint. One morning, Aizawa gathered Class 1A. We're leaving campus. The students immediately became excited. Field trip? Kirishima asked. No, Aizawa replied. Everyone's excitement disappeared. We're going to the USJ. The class perked up again. The Unforeseen Simulation Joint. A massive disaster training facility. Different zones simulated real-world emergencies. Floods, fires, earthquakes, landslides, storms. Perfect for future heroes. Izuku couldn't wait. As the class entered the enormous facility, they were greeted by the rescue hero. 13. The hero began explaining rescue procedures. But before the lesson could continue, something went wrong. Chapter 23. The Black Portal. A strange purple mist appeared in the center of the facility. At first, everyone thought it was part of the exercise. Then dozens of villains emerged. The atmosphere instantly changed. Aizawa stepped forward. His expression darkened. Those aren't training actors. Fear spread through the students. More villains appeared. Then more. Then dozens more. The entire facility became overrun. At the center stood two figures. A pale man with red eyes, and a massive creature with exposed muscles. The students stared. Aizawa's voice became deadly serious. Everyone. The teacher removed his capture weapon. Stay back. Chapter 24. Villains Attack. Chaos erupted. The villains charged. Aizawa launched himself into battle immediately. Students watched in awe as their teacher dismantled dozens of enemies alone. But there were too many. Far too many. The villain known as Tamura Shigaraki stepped forward. His eyes scanned the students, then stopped on Izuku. Interesting. The green-haired student radiated power. Shigaraki could feel it, and he hated it. Before anyone could react, the purple mist villain activated his quirk. A dark vortex opened beneath the students. Class 1A was scattered across the facility. Chapter 25. The Flood Zone. Izuku crashed into cold water. He surfaced immediately. Around him floated Tsuyu Azui, Mineta. The Flood Zone. Dozens of villains surrounded them. Mineta panicked instantly. We're gonna die. Tsuyu remained calm. Izuku focused. Heroes save people. Heroes stay calm. That was what All Might would do. The villains attacked. Izuku raised both hands. Water responded. The entire lake trembled. Villains stopped moving. What the? A massive wave rose behind Izuku. 20 feet high. 30. 40. The villains stared in horror. Then the wave crashed. Boom. The flood zone exploded into chaos. Villains were swept away instantly. Several smashed into walls. Others disappeared beneath the current. The remaining attackers fled. For the first time, Izuku had used large-scale elemental manipulation in combat. And it worked. Chapter 26. Elemental Armor. Elsewhere in the facility, students struggled. Villains overwhelmed multiple zones. Injuries mounted. Time was running out. Izuku raced toward the central plaza. The moment he arrived, he froze. Aizawa was injured. Badly injured. The Noma stood nearby. Towering. Monstrous. Terrifying. The creature radiated overwhelming strength. Even from a distance, Izuku could feel it. This wasn't a normal villain. This was a weapon. Aizawa tried standing. The Nomu slammed him into the ground. The impact shook the facility. Something inside Izuku snapped. His emotions surged. Anger, fear, determination. The elements responded. Fire ignited around him. Water spiraled upward. Earth rose from beneath his feet. Wind circled his body. Ice formed crystalline patterns across his arms. Lightning crackled through the entire structure. The elements merged. For the first time, a suit of elemental energy formed around him. A living armor. Glowing. Powerful. Beautiful. Elemental armor. Every student nearby stared. Even the villains hesitated. The power radiating from Izuku felt unreal. Chapter 27. Tempest appears. Then everything became worse. The sky darkened. Thunder rumbled overhead. The wind intensified. Everyone looked upward. Clouds spiraled above the USJ. A storm was forming. No, someone was creating it. A figure descended from the clouds. Silver hair. Silver eyes. Dark coat flowing behind him. Tempest. The mysterious villain finally revealed himself. The moment he landed, the atmosphere changed. Even Shigaraki looked surprised. You weren't invited. Tempest ignored him. His gaze remained fixed on one person. Izuku Midoriya. At last. The child of elements. Chapter 28. Element against element. The storm intensified. Rain poured. Lightning flashed. Wind screamed. Tempest raised one hand. The weather obeyed. Entire tornadoes began forming around the facility. Students stared in disbelief. He controls the elements too. Izuku felt his stomach drop. For the first time, he faced someone who understood his power. Someone who possessed a similar gift. Tempest smiled. Show me. Lightning exploded around him. Show me what lies beyond the 6 elements. Then he attacked. Chapter 29. The Battle of Storms. The collision shook the USJ. Lightning met lightning. Wind met wind. Fire exploded across the battlefield. Neither gained an advantage. Tempest was stronger. Far stronger. Years older. Years more experienced. Every technique Izuku used was countered. Every attack was anticipated. For the first time in years, Izuku felt completely outmatched. Tempest slammed him through a concrete wall. Blood appeared at the corner of Izuku's mouth. Students watched helplessly. Bakugo clenched his fists. Todoroki prepared his ice. Everyone wanted to help, but the battle moved too fast. Tempest grabbed Izuku by the throat. The villain's eyes narrowed. You can feel it. Izuku struggled. The primordial element. The name echoed in his mind. The mysterious 7th power. Tempest smiled. I knew it. Chapter 30. Awakening. Then something happened. Tempest tightened his grip. The pressure increased. Izuku's vision blurred. The world faded. And deep within his consciousness, a voice whispered. Not words. A feeling. Ancient. Infinite. The source of all elements. The beginning. And suddenly, a pulse erupted from Izuku's body. Green-gold energy exploded outward. The storm above froze. Lightning stopped. Rain stopped. Wind stopped. Everything stopped. For one impossible moment. Nature itself stood still. Tempest's eyes widened in horror. No. The villain stumbled backward. He awakened it. The primordial element had emerged. Only for a second. Only a glimpse. But it was enough. The entire battlefield felt it. Every hero. Every villain. Every student. Power unlike anything they had ever experienced. Then it vanished, leaving silence behind, and leaving everyone wondering one terrifying question. What exactly was Izuku Midoriya becoming? Chapter 31. The symbol of peace arrives. The battlefield remained frozen. Not because of ice. Not because of fear. But because everyone had witnessed something impossible. The brief awakening of the primordial element had shaken heroes and villains alike. Even Tempest looked disturbed. Then a familiar voice thundered across the USJ. I am here. The walls trembled. Students cheered. Villains panicked. All Might had arrived. The symbol of peace landed between the students and the villains. His cape billowed in the storm winds. His eyes immediately found the injured students. Then Aizawa. Then Izuku. And finally, Tempest. For a moment, the two men simply stared at each other. You. All Might said. Tempest smiled. Hello, All Might. Something about the exchange felt wrong. As though they knew one another. Chapter 32. The Storm King. Tempest slowly stepped forward. Lightning danced around him. The clouds above twisted into a dark spiral. Years ago, Tempest said, I wanted to be a hero. The students listened carefully. I believed heroes could save everyone. His expression hardened. But nature taught me the truth. The wind intensified. Floods destroy cities. Earthquakes kill thousands. Storms show no mercy. The villain spread his arms. Nature is not kind. Lightning flashed behind him. Why should I be? The atmosphere became heavy. Even Shigaraki watched quietly. Tempest pointed toward Izuku. That boy possesses the power to command the world itself. His silver eyes narrowed. And if he follows your path, All Might. The villain's voice lowered. He'll waste that power. Chapter 33, Clash of Titans. Tempest attacked. The storm exploded. Lightning descended from the sky. Tornadoes tore through the training facility. But All Might moved. Smash. The shockwave shattered the incoming tornadoes. Students watched in awe. Two monsters were fighting. Not heroes. Not villains. Forces of nature. All Might's punches split the air. Tempest storms reshaped the battlefield. Each collision felt like a natural disaster. The USJ shook violently. Izuku struggled to stand. His body hurt. His energy was nearly gone. Yet he couldn't look away. This was the level he wanted to reach. The level of the greatest heroes. Chapter 34, Retreat. Even Tempest realized the battle was turning against him. All Might was wounded from previous battles. Yet he remained overwhelming. The villain clicked his tongue. Not today. Dark clouds gathered around him. The League of Villains began retreating. Shigaraki looked furious. We're leaving. Tempest glanced at him. You'll understand one day. The villain's eyes shifted toward Izuku. This isn't over. Lightning flashed. The storm vanished. And with it, the villains disappeared. The USJ attack was over. But the war had only begun. Chapter 35, Recovery. Several days later, UA felt different. Students laughed less, trained harder, thought more carefully. The reality of villain attacks had become real. No one could pretend hero work was a game anymore. Especially Izuku, because he couldn't stop thinking about the primordial element. The power haunted him. What was it? Where did it come from? Why did Tempest fear it? Questions without answers. Until one night, the answers finally began coming. Chapter 36, The Ancient Dream. Izuku dreamed. Or perhaps it wasn't a dream. He stood in an endless landscape. No sky, no earth, no stars, only glowing energy. A voice echoed around him. You seek understanding. Izuku turned. A figure stood nearby, made entirely of light. Its appearance constantly shifted. Sometimes fire, sometimes water, sometimes lightning, sometimes all of them at once. What are you? Izuku asked. The being smiled. I am the first element. The answer made no sense. Yet somehow, it felt true. You carry my fragment. The figure raised a hand. Suddenly images filled Izuku's mind. Ancient civilizations, lost heroes, forgotten wars, elemental users stretching back thousands of years. And at the center of it all, a power older than quirks themselves. The primordial element, the source from which every elemental ability originated. Before Izuku could ask more questions, the vision vanished. He woke up gasping, and knew one thing. The primordial element was real. Chapter 37, Sports Festival begins. Weeks later, excitement returned to UA. The annual sports festival approached. One of the largest events in Japan. Millions watched every year. Future heroes earned recognition. Internships. Career opportunities. The pressure was immense. The stadium was packed. Crowds cheered. Cameras rolled. Present Mick's voice echoed through the arena. Welcome to the UA Sports Festival. The audience erupted. Students stepped into the spotlight. And for the first time, the entire country saw Izuku Midoriya, the boy who controlled the elements. Chapter 38, The Obstacle Race. The first event was simple. Reach the finish line. The obstacles were not. Gigantic robots. Collapsed terrain. Hazard zones. Students sprinted forward. Bakugo exploded ahead. Todoroki froze entire sections of the course. Izuku smiled, then jumped. Wind erupted beneath him. He launched high into the air. Water created temporary platforms. Earth pillars boosted his movement. Lightning accelerated his reactions. The crowd roared. The race became a battle between three students. Bakugo, Todoroki, Izuku. The finish line approached. In the final seconds, a burst of wind propelled Izuku forward. First place. The stadium exploded with cheers. Chapter 39, Deku vs. Todoroki. Eventually the tournament rounds began. Match after match. Victory after victory. Until one battle remained. Izuku Midoriya versus Shoto Todoroki. The stadium held its breath. Two of the strongest students in UA. Two elemental users. One battlefield. The match began. Ice covered the arena instantly. Massive glaciers erupted toward Izuku. Wind carried him above them. Fire melted incoming attacks. Earth shattered frozen barriers. The battle escalated rapidly. Neither side held back. Neither side wanted to lose. The audience sat spellbound. Then Todoroki unleashed an enormous wave of ice. Bigger than anything before. Izuku's eyes widened. He couldn't dodge. He couldn't block. Only one option remained. Chapter 40. The primordial element stirred. For the first time, Izuku embraced it. Not fully, just enough. Energy surged through his body. The 6 elements converged. Fire became scales. Wind became wings. Lightning became claws. Water became flowing armor. Earth became a powerful frame. Ice became crystalline horns. A massive elemental dragon formed around him. The crowd stood. The stadium shook. Even professional heroes stared in disbelief. Elemental dragon form. The dragon roared. A sound like thunder. Like earthquakes. Like storms. Then it surged forward. Todoroki's ice shattered instantly. The arena exploded with elemental energy. When the dust settled, both students stood exhausted. Neither had fully won, but everyone knew they had witnessed history. Far away, Tempest watched the broadcast. His expression was grim. He grows faster than I feared. Outside his hidden base, storms gathered. Across Japan, strange weather patterns had begun appearing. Floods, lightning storms, earthquakes. Something was coming. Something enormous. And Tempest was preparing for it. Chapter 41. The final match. The UA Sports Festival had become the most watched event in Japan. Millions tuned in. Professional heroes filled the stadium. Hero agencies competed for the attention of the strongest students. Yet now, only 2 competitors remained. Izuku Midoriya and Katsuki Bakugo. The rivals stood across from each other. The arena was silent. For years they had competed. For years they had pushed each other forward. Now they would discover who stood at the top. Bakugo cracked his knuckles. Deku. Izuku smiled. Kakin. Neither looked away. Present Mike raised his hand. Begin. Chapter 42. Rivals at full power. The explosion came first. Boom. Bakugo launched across the arena like a missile. Izuku reacted instantly. Wind surged beneath his feet. Earth barriers erupted from the ground. Bakugo blasted through them. The crowd roared. Fire collided with explosions. Lightning flashed across the battlefield. Shockwaves shattered concrete. Neither fighter gave ground. Years of training. Years of frustration. Years of friendship and rivalry. Everything exploded into this moment. Bakugo unleashed a massive blast. Izuku answered with elemental cyclone. The collision created a tornado of fire and sparks. The stadium shook. Professional heroes watched with amazement. These weren't ordinary students anymore. They were future legends. Chapter 43. Victory and Respect. After nearly 20 minutes of combat, both boys were exhausted, bruised, bleeding, barely standing, yet neither would quit. Bakugo charged one final time. Izuku gathered every remaining ounce of strength. The collision lit up the arena. Then silence followed. When the smoke cleared, only one student remained standing. Izuku Midoriya. The crowd erupted. Bakugo stared upward from the ground, breathing heavily. For a moment nobody spoke. Then Bakugo laughed. Actually laughed. You won this one. Izuku's eyes widened. The words carried more meaning than any trophy. For the first time, Bakugo acknowledged him completely. Not as the weak kid from childhood, but as an equal. Perhaps even more. Chapter 44. Internship Offers. The sports festival ended. Internship requests flooded UA. Many students received offers. Izuku received hundreds. Several of Japan's top heroes wanted him. One invitation stood above the rest. From the legendary hero, Endeavor, the number 2 hero, known for his incredible firepower and relentless training methods. Many students would have accepted immediately. Instead, Izuku chose another mentor, a veteran rescue hero named Ryujin. Unlike most heroes, Ryujin specialized in large-scale disaster response. Exactly the area Izuku wanted to master, because saving people mattered more than defeating villains. Chapter 45. Lessons of a True Hero. Ryujin's training was unlike anything Izuku expected. No combat, no flashy attacks, no villain simulations. Instead, flood evacuations, earthquake rescue drills, wildfire containment, emergency response planning. At first Izuku was confused. Then he understood. Heroes didn't exist only to fight. Heroes existed to save lives. One rescue operation changed him forever. A building collapse trapped dozens of civilians. The situation was dangerous. Time was running out. Instead of destroying obstacles with brute force, Izuku carefully manipulated earth and stone, millimeter by millimeter, protecting survivors, saving everyone. Afterward, Ryujin smiled. That's what being a hero means. Those words stayed with him. Chapter 46. The Hero Killer. Meanwhile, darkness was spreading. Reports emerged across Japan. Several heroes had been attacked, some critically injured. One name appeared repeatedly. Hero Killer Stain. A vigilante murderer who targeted heroes he considered unworthy. His actions shook society. Fear spread rapidly. Many questioned what it truly meant to be a hero, including Izuku, because some of Stain's criticisms weren't entirely wrong. There were heroes who chased fame, heroes who chased money, heroes who forgot why they started. Yet murder could never be the answer. Chapter 47. Tempest's True Goal. Far away, inside a hidden facility beneath the mountains, Tempest prepared. Massive machines filled underground chambers. Ancient diagrams covered the walls. Energy readings glowed across countless screens. Storms gathered above the mountain every day. The project was nearing completion. One subordinate approached nervously. Everything is ready. Tempest nodded. The man hesitated. Do you truly believe it will work? Tempest stared at a massive holographic map of Japan. I know it will. The villain's eyes hardened. For centuries, humanity has tried to dominate nature. His voice echoed through the chamber. Now nature will reclaim its authority. The subordinate swallowed nervously. What exactly are we creating? Tempest smiled. The Elemental Cataclysm. Chapter 48. The Elemental Cataclysm Project. The plan was terrifying. Using specialized technology and his elemental abilities, Tempest intended to create a chain reaction. Artificial storms, earthquakes, floods, volcanic eruptions. Every major natural force would activate simultaneously. Japan would descend into chaos. Millions could die. Civilization itself might collapse. And worst of all, Tempest believed he was saving the world. He viewed humanity as a disease, nature as the cure. Chapter 49. Primordial Training. Back at UA, Izuku finally began studying the primordial element. Through meditation, training, research, slowly, he learned something important. The primordial element wasn't a separate power. It was the source connecting all 6 elements. A foundation, a core. When activated properly, it enhanced every aspect of his abilities. But it carried risks. Immense risks. Too much power could overwhelm his body. Too little accomplished nothing. Finding balance became his greatest challenge. For weeks he trained. Failure after failure. Until one night, success finally arrived. Chapter 50. Primordial Mode. The training field was empty. Moonlight illuminated the grass. Izuku stood alone. He closed his eyes, breathed deeply, and focused. Not on fire. Not on water. Not on earth. Not on lightning. Not on wind. Not on ice. On the connection between them. The source. The beginning. The primordial element awakened. Green-gold energy surrounded him. The 6 elements orbiting his body became perfectly synchronized. For the first time, everything felt effortless, natural, balanced, complete. His eyes glowed. The air itself seemed to hum with energy. This was different from elemental armor, different from dragon form. This was purity, primordial mode. Power flowed through every cell of his body. Yet unlike before, it didn't hurt. A smile spread across Izuku's face. At last, he was beginning to understand. Chapter 51. The First Signs. The next morning, strange reports appeared across Japan. Unusual weather, massive lightning storms, earth tremors, flood warnings, temperature fluctuations. Scientists were baffled. Heroes grew concerned. Government agencies launched investigations. Nobody knew the truth. Nobody knew these were only the beginning, because deep beneath the mountains, the elemental cataclysm project activated. Machines roared to life. Energy surged through ancient systems. Storm clouds gathered across the horizon. Tempest stood before a massive control platform. His silver eyes reflected countless displays. The villain smiled. The age of heroes is ending. Lightning illuminated the chamber, and the age of nature begins. Far away, Izuku suddenly stopped walking. A strange feeling washed over him. The primordial element reacted, warning him. Something enormous was coming. Something that would test every hero in Japan. And the greatest battle of his life was about to begin. Chapter 52. The Day the Sky Broke. The warning signs had been there. The strange storms. The earthquakes. The sudden temperature shifts. But nobody expected what happened next. At exactly 6 a.m., emergency alarms sounded across Japan. News broadcasts interrupted regular programming. Heroes were mobilized. Government agencies declared a national crisis. The elemental cataclysm had begun. Massive hurricanes formed along the coast. Earthquakes shook major cities. Floodwaters surged through entire districts. Lightning storms blackened the sky. Wildfires erupted in multiple regions. Japan was under attack, not by an army, not by villains, but by nature itself. Or rather, by someone controlling nature. Tempest stood atop a mountain overlooking the chaos. Lightning danced around him. Rain lashed against his coat. Yet he remained perfectly still. Look at them, he whispered. Humanity believes it controls the world. A massive bolt of lightning struck the horizon. Now they remember who truly holds power. Chapter 53. Heroes Mobilize. UA High School became an emergency command center. Students rushed through the halls. Teachers coordinated rescue operations. Professional heroes prepared for deployment. Aizawa addressed Class 1A. This is not a training exercise. The room became silent. People are dying. His eyes swept across the class. If you go out there, you will face real danger. Nobody moved. Nobody backed down. Because they already knew. This was what heroes were supposed to do. Izuku stepped forward. We're ready. The rest of the class nodded. For the first time, they truly felt like heroes. Chapter 54. Rescue Mission. Izuku's team was sent to a coastal city devastated by flooding. The scene was horrifying. Buildings partially submerged. Vehicles swept away. Families stranded on rooftops. The storm continued growing stronger. Ordinary rescue methods weren't enough. Thousands needed help. Immediately, Izuku took a deep breath. The primordial element stirred. He raised both hands. The ocean responded. Water that had flooded entire streets began moving. Slowly at first, then faster. Massive currents changed direction. Floodwaters retreated. Safe pathways opened throughout the city. Civilians stared in disbelief. Entire neighborhoods were being rescued by one student. Yet Izuku didn't stop. There were still people trapped. Still people suffering. And heroes never stopped helping. Chapter 55. Fire and Ice. Elsewhere, Todoroki faced a different nightmare. Wildfires consumed thousands of acres of forest. Entire towns were threatened. The flames spread uncontrollably. Todoroki stood before the inferno. His eyes narrowed. Then ice erupted. An entire wall of frozen crystal stretched across the landscape. Fire met ice. Steam exploded skyward. The battle against the wildfire lasted hours. Yet eventually, the flames stopped. Lives were saved. And Todoroki finally understood something. His power wasn't a burden. It was a gift. One he could use to protect others. Chapter 56. The Explosion Hero. Meanwhile, Bakugo found himself in the middle of a collapsing city. Buildings crumbled around him. Roads split apart. Panic spread everywhere. At first glance, explosions seemed useless for rescue. But Bakugo refused to accept that. He blasted through debris, created escape routes, carried injured civilians, protected children, hour after hour, without rest, without complaint. Because despite everything, Bakugo cared, far more than he liked admitting. When a little girl thanked him for saving her family, he simply looked away. Don't mention it. Then blasted off toward the next emergency. Chapter 57. The Symbol of Peace Falls. Deep within the mountains, a battle raged. All Might versus Tempest. The clash shook the earth. Shock waves echoed for miles. Mountains cracked. Storm clouds spiraled overhead. Neither fighter held back. All Might fought with everything he had. But time was catching up to him. His injuries, his fading power, his limitations. Tempest knew it and exploited it. The villain unleashed a storm unlike anything seen before. Lightning struck from every direction. Hurricane-force winds tore apart the landscape. The mountain itself began collapsing. All Might punched through the storm. Again, and again, and again. Yet eventually, his body gave out. For the first time in years, the symbol of peace fell to one knee. Tempest stared at him, not with hatred, but sadness. You were a great hero. Lightning illuminated the battlefield. But heroes cannot stop nature. Chapter 58, The First Element's Secret. At that exact moment, Izuku experienced another vision. The world vanished. Once again, he stood before the being of living light. The first element. This time the figure seemed clearer, more defined. You are nearing the truth. Izuku nodded. What are you? The figure smiled. I am possibility. The answer confused him. The being raised a hand. Images flooded Izuku's mind. Ancient civilizations. Ancient heroes. Ancient elemental users. Then something unexpected. The first element wasn't a person. It wasn't even a quirk. It was an energy that existed before quirks. Before recorded history. A force representing balance. Creation. Harmony. The source from which elemental powers eventually evolved. And now, it had chosen Izuku. Not because he was strongest, but because he wanted to save people. Chapter 59, Primordial Dragon Mode. The vision ended. Reality returned. And with it came terrible news. All Might had been defeated. The heroes were losing. Tempest was moving toward the final stage of his plan. If nobody stopped him, Japan would fall. Izuku clenched his fists. Fear filled his heart. But determination burned even brighter. The primordial element awakened fully. Fire, water, earth, wind, ice, lightning. All six merged perfectly. Golden green energy erupted around him. The sky itself seemed to respond. Massive elemental wings unfolded behind him. A dragon formed, larger than any before, more powerful than any before. This was no longer elemental dragon form. This was its ultimate evolution. Primordial dragon mode. The ground trembled beneath his feet. Nearby heroes stared in awe, because the power radiating from Izuku felt almost limitless. Yet unlike Tempest, it felt calm, balanced, hopeful, the power of a protector. Chapter 60, March Toward Destiny. Storm clouds gathered across Japan. Tempest approached the final control station of the elemental cataclysm. The machine was nearly complete. One final activation remained. One final step, and the nation would collapse. But far away, a green-haired hero rose into the sky, elemental energy trailing behind him like a comet. His eyes burned with determination. The hopes of countless people rested upon him. His classmates, his teachers, his family, his hero, All Might. Izuku looked toward the distant mountains. I'll stop you. Lightning flashed across the horizon. The final battle was about to begin. Chapter 61, The Eye of the Storm. The skies above Japan had become a nightmare. Hurricanes churned across the coastline. Lightning storms stretched for hundreds of miles. Floodwaters swallowed entire districts. The elemental cataclysm was only minutes away from reaching full power. At the center of it all stood Tempest. The massive control station towered behind him. Ancient machinery hummed with energy. Storm clouds rotated above like a giant vortex. The villain looked toward the horizon and saw a streak of green-gold light approaching. Izuku Midoriya. Primordial dragon mode blazed around him. Elemental wings stretched across the sky. Lightning danced along his armor. Tempest smiled. You came. Izuku landed atop the mountain. The impact cracked the stone beneath his feet. I came to stop you. The wind howled. Thunder rolled. The final battle began. Chapter 62, Tempest's Truth. For several moments neither moved. Then Tempest spoke. Do you know why I became this way? Izuku remained silent. The villain stared toward the storm. When I was a child, his voice grew distant. A hurricane destroyed my hometown. Images flashed through his memory. Homes torn apart. Families lost. Heroes arriving too late. My parents died. The storm above darkened. I waited for heroes. Lightning flashed. They never came. The words carried years of pain, years of anger, years of grief. Tempest clenched his fists. The world worships heroes. The mountain shook. But heroes cannot stop earthquakes. Lightning exploded around him. They cannot stop hurricanes. The wind screamed. They cannot stop nature. His silver eyes locked onto Izuku. So I decided to become stronger than nature itself. For a moment, Izuku understood, not the villain's actions, but the pain that created them. Chapter 63, Clash of Elements. Tempest attacked first. A tornado descended from the sky. Izuku answered instantly. Wind surged outward. The two storms collided. Boom! The mountain exploded. Lightning struck from every direction. Firestorms erupted. Earth cracked apart. The battle became a war between forces of nature. Neither side held back. Every attack could destroy entire cities. Every collision shook the country. Far below, heroes watched in awe. This was no longer a normal fight. This was a battle for the future. Chapter 64, Class 1A arrives. The mountain trembled violently. Tempest unleashed another devastating attack. A massive storm dragon formed above the battlefield. Even Izuku struggled to stop it. Then suddenly, ice. A gigantic frozen wall shattered the dragon's path. Todoroki arrived. You're not fighting alone. A second later, boom. Explosions ripped through the storm. Bakugo blasted into the battlefield. Don't hog all the fun, Deku. Then more heroes appeared. One after another. Class 1A. Every student. Every friend. Standing together. The sight filled Izuku with hope. Because heroes never stood alone. Chapter 65. The Cataclysm activates. Despite their efforts, the machine completed its activation. Warning lights illuminated the mountain. Energy surged skyward. The entire country felt it. The elemental cataclysm had reached full power. Across Japan, volcanoes awakened. Earthquakes intensified. Storms doubled in strength. Floodwaters surged again. Panic spread everywhere. Tempest looked upward. His expression became uncertain. Even he seemed surprised. The machine had exceeded expectations. And now, it was becoming unstable. Chapter 66. Nature Unleashed. The mountain began collapsing. The machine overloaded. Energy exploded from its core. Even Tempest realized the truth. He had lost control. The catastrophe he created now threatened everyone, including him. Lightning tore across the sky. Massive fissures opened in the earth. The destruction accelerated. Tempest stared in horror. No. For the first time, the villain looked afraid. Chapter 67. The Hero's Choice. Izuku saw it immediately. The machine's core. If it exploded completely, millions would die. There was only one solution. Someone needed to contain the energy. And everyone knew who could do it. Izuku stepped forward. Bakugo grabbed his shoulder. Don't even think about it. Todoroki looked concerned. You may not survive. Izuku smiled. A calm smile. The same kind of smile All Might always wore. If I don't do this. He looked toward the distant cities. Who will? Silence followed. Because nobody had an answer. Chapter 68. The Ultimate Primordial Form. The first element appeared one final time. Time itself seemed to slow. The glowing figure stood before Izuku. You have chosen. Izuku nodded. I have. The being smiled. Then placed a hand upon his shoulder. Every elemental power awakened. Fire. Water, earth, wind, lightning, ice, and beyond them, the primordial element, the source, the beginning, the balance connecting everything. Energy exploded across the sky. Golden green light engulfed the battlefield. A colossal dragon emerged, larger than mountains, larger than storms, larger than anything seen before. Its wings stretched across the horizon. Its roar echoed throughout Japan. The ultimate primordial dragon. And at its heart stood Izuku Midoriya. Chapter 69. Saving a Nation. The dragon descended upon the unstable core. Energy surged violently. The machine fought back. The storm fought back. Nature itself seemed to resist. But Izuku refused to yield. Every lesson, every struggle, every friendship, every sacrifice, all of it pushed him forward. The dragon wrapped around the core. The primordial element began restoring balance. Not destroying, healing, repairing, stabilizing. Because true strength wasn't about domination. It was about protection. The energy gradually calmed. The storms weakened. The earthquake stopped. The floods receded. Across Japan, the disaster ended. Chapter 70. A New Dawn. The sun rose. For the first time in days, golden lights spread across the nation. Citizens emerged from shelters. Heroes celebrated. Families reunited. Japan had survived. Tempest sat quietly atop the mountain. Defeated. Broken. But alive. Izuku approached him. The villain looked away. I failed. Izuku sat beside him. For several moments neither spoke. Then Izuku finally said, "You wanted to stop people from suffering." Tempest nodded slowly. "But your pain became destruction." The villain closed his eyes. For once, he didn't argue. Epilogue. The Elemental Hero. Months later, reconstruction efforts continued across Japan. The story of the catastrophe became legend. People spoke of the young hero who controlled the elements. The hero who saved the nation. The hero who chose balance over power. At UA, life slowly returned to normal. Students trained. Heroes taught. Dreams continued. One afternoon, All Might stood beside Izuku, overlooking the city. The former symbol of peace smiled. "You've surpassed even my expectations." Izuku laughed nervously. "I still have a lot to learn." All Might nodded. "That's what makes you a hero." Far below, the city thrived, protected by countless heroes. And among them stood a young man destined for greatness. Not because he possessed incredible power, but because he used it to help others. The wind gently stirred. A small flame danced in his palm. Water floated nearby. Lightning crackled softly. Earth rose beneath his feet. Ice sparkled in the sunlight. The elements answered their hero, and the future stretched endlessly before him. The end. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe.